We are going to talk about Gregor Johann Mendel. Who was Gregor Mendel? He was an Austrian monk who discovered the basic principles of heredity through experiments in his garden. Known as the father of modern genetics, was born in Austria in 1822. He spent his early youth in a rural setting until age 11, when a local schoolmaster was impressed with his aptitude for learning, recommended that he be sent to secondary school in Tropo to continue his education. The move was a financial strain on his family and often a difficult experience for Mendel, but he excelled in his studies, and in 1840 he graduated from school with honors. In 1843 he graduated in the Philosophical Institute of the University of Olmütz. That same year, against the wishes of his father, Mendel began studying to be a monk. He joined the Augustinian order at the St. Thomas Monastery in Brno and was given the name Gregor. In 1849, Mendel was so exhausted that he was sent to fill a temporary teaching position in Znaim. In 1851, he was sent to the University of Vienna at the monastery expense to continue his studies in the science. In 1853, when he completed his studies at the university, he returned to the monastery in Brno, where he would stay for more than a decade. It was during this time that he began the experiments for which he is best known.
There were three Mendel's laws. The first one of them is the law of dominance. In a cross of parents that are pure for contrasting traits, only one form of the trait will appear in the next generation. In the table, it is shown very well. An homozygous gen, which is tall, TT in capital, is crossed with an homozygous trait, which is short, TT in not capital. The offspring that are heterozygous will have only the dominant trait in the phenotype, but both traits will be in the genotype, like in the table, which shows the parents and the F1 offspring. The tall factor seems to dominate the short factor. That sentence refers to what is called nowadays the dominant and the recessive alleles. The second of the laws is the law of segregation. During the formation of gametes, the two alleles responsible for a trait separate from each other, which will produce the genotype when the alleles are recombined. Like in this table, two of the F1 offspring are crossed, and not all the offspring is like their parents, like in the table. We shows the parents, which are heterozygous, and the offspring, which 50% is heterozygous and the other 50% is homozygous, being the 65% tall and the 25% short. In this picture, it is shown the F1 and F2, which are the two of the three laws of Mendel, the law of dominance and the law of segregation. The last of his laws is the law of independent assortment. He realized that he had just studied one trait, the height. So he studied more traits like the form of the seeds and the pod color. And he realized that different traits were inherited independently. For example, in this table it is shown what happens if you cross different seeds with different forms and different pods. This is a final summary of all his laws, which shows each law, the parent cross, and the offspring genotype and phenotype, and it's very clear.
The difference between dominant and recessive. Dominant alleles are always expressed in the organisms, while recessive traits tend to be expressed only when the dominant allele is not present. If a dominant allele and a recessive allele are combined, the dominant allele will appear in the phenotype. In the flower color, the purple is the dominant one, and the white is the recessive. Mendel studied 7 traits in pea plants: the pea shape, the pea color, flower position, plant height, pod shape, and pod color. Each trait had a dominant allele and a recessive allele shown in this table.
How did Mendel cross different varieties of peas? He followed 2 different methods to create purebred peas plants and hybrid pea plants. He used peas as they were very easy to mix and proceeded its experiment of fertilization.
Yeah.
The first method, to create purebred plants. Pea plants self-pollinate, and thanks to that, Mendel could proceed its experiment. This pollination happens before the flower is opened, and only happened in one plant, not between them, as other plants' reproduction. This method created an homozygous plant. They had the same information for each allele. The second method, to create hybrid plants. He used a paintbrush and picked the pollen from one plant with purple flowers from the stamen and transport it to the stigma of another white flower to make the 2 different genetic materials to mix and create a hybrid plant. Then, the first generation of this mix was always homogeneous. This method created an heterozygous plant which had different information for each allele.
Thanks for watching!
Vaya,